Standards Practice Week 8. So just to give you a heads up, we know that a lot of this we had not covered yet. You cover it during different times depending on like the order of the textbook and stuff like that. But we haven't covered recursive formula or explicit formulas for arithmetic sequences. But just use this video to help you through it, and then that'll count. So don't worry too much if you don't recall how to do these, because we hadn't covered it yet in class. So what is the recursive formula for the sequence 2, 24, 46, 68, 90? Okay, so recursive means that you look at the term beforehand to see how you get to the next one. So like, if you notice this, to get to 24, you have to add 22 to this number. To get to 46, you add 22 to this number. To get to 68, you add 22 to the number before it. And so recursive just means you have to use the term before it. Since you can tell that it's going up, you can automatically get rid of B and D because of the minus sign, because that would mean that the value is going down. So even though we hadn't covered recursive formulas, you can use process of elimination to at least get rid of half of the answers. Alright, so since it's talking about using the one before it to figure out what the next term is, then you would have to subtract one from what you're at, because a sub 1 means the first term. So a sub 2 would mean, so if this was a sub 2, that would mean 2 minus 1. Use the first term, add 22. If I was using this one and I was trying to find the second term, if n is 2, and n plus 1 would be 3. Well, I can't use the third term to figure out the second term because I need the term before it. So that would get rid of C. Number 2. The sequence 1/2, 1 1/4, 2, 2 3/4, 3 1/2 is an arithmetic sequence. Write an explicit formula for the sequence. So there is a formula for finding explicit arithmetic sequences. Excuse me. So the explicit formula is a sub n, that's the general one, plus whatever the first term is. So a sub 1 just means the first term. If I had a sub 2, that'd be the second term. And a sub 3 would be the third term, plus whatever the difference is, and then n minus 1. And n just means whatever term I'm looking for. So a sub 1 means first term, so that would be 1/2. So I'm going to change colors here. So the general formula, the first term is 1/2. What is the difference between 1/2 to 1/4, or 1/4 to 2, or 2 to 2 3/4? This is the easiest one to tell the difference between. The difference between 2 and 2 3/4 is 3/4. And then I'll leave n minus 1. So there's the explicit formula. Sorry, that's hard to read because I wrote over the letters. It says find the value of the 12th term of the sequence. So I want to know what's the 12th term. So it would be 1/2 plus 3/4, and since I'm looking for a 12, and 12 is my n, it'd be 12 minus 1. Our order of operations says you're supposed to do your grouping symbols first, which would mean 12 minus 1 would be the first thing you would do. So 1/2 plus 3/4. 12 minus 1 is 11. So if you need to write that as a fraction so it's easier to do, we're going to multiply the tops together, multiply the bottoms together. Order of operation says that you must multiply before adding. So I'm going to move that over here. So that would be 1/2 plus 3 times 11 is 33. And then 4 times 1 is 4. And before you're allowed to add fractions, you do need to get a common denominator. So I would times this by 2 and times this by 2. So I would get 2 over 4 plus 33 over 4, and you can leave it as an improper fraction, or you can change it to a mixed number, but it's easier if you leave it as an improper fraction. Next one. Stacy opens a savings account with a deposit of $150. She deposits an additional $20 every week after that. Write an explicit function and a recursive function. So let's do this. So when you do $20 every week, that means 20 is your slope. And you started off with a 150, so that's your constant. So this part we've done before for the explicit. So that would be y equals 20 times however many number of weeks plus 150, because that's what you started with. Let's look at the recursive function. So if you know what your first term is, which is 150, so For every term after that, you look at the term before it, and minus 1. So look at the term before it, and then you would just add $20 to that. So this is your recursive function. Choose a function from part A and determine how much money will be in the account after 12 weeks. It doesn't matter which one you do, but if you're going to use the recursive function, you would have to do each week leading up to the 12th week. So you'd have to do week 1, which is 150, then week 2, which is 170, then week 3, which is 190, and that just takes a while. So usually we use this function. So if I use this, so what is the amount of money after 12 weeks? You would just have to figure out what 20 times 12 plus 150 is. And then explain why you chose the function, because you won't have to do each value for every single week prior to the 12th week.